I built my 2025 New Year's resolution personal productivity planner with Claude, but this is a little bit of a clickbait because while I do go through the React elements and then I still use ChatGPT as well as Claude, I don't completely finish this whole personal productivity planner. Let me explain why. Well, first of all, I don't even remember if I ever made New Year's resolutions, but even if I did, they probably didn't last more than a couple of weeks. And in addition to that, I do feel like every single year it is important, not necessarily to have goals that have to be achievable, but it's good to think about this year, these are the things that I want to improve on. And I want a way to be able to organize it and then also have my thoughts really tracked, maybe perhaps throughout the year. So what do I do in 2024 where ChatGPT, Claude, all of the AI stuff have become wildly popular? Well, first, which is what I typically do, I use ChatGPT Plus because I have the paid version of it for it to help me do the initial planning. So let me read through what I actually prompted ChatGPT. And recently, I've been using a lot of O1. I've heard O1 is great for a lot of these like thinking type of tasks or things where they need a lot more information. So typically for these O1 prompts, I put in like a ton of information on it and I let it think for as long as possible and then also ask me follow-up questions. Let me quickly summarize what I prompted it. I told O1, help me plan my goals for the next year, 2025. What I'm looking for essentially what is realistic and what needs to be placed into 2026 if there's not enough time. So essentially I'm trying to be as ambitious as possible, but also letting O1 figure out if I am being too ambitious. After that, I give O1 a bit of detail in terms of the things that I want to do and the level of priority for those things. For example, number one is obviously my job, working 9 to 5 from Monday to Friday. And then, of course, I also want to supplement that with continuing to learn more about coding. For example, reading more books about Python, learning more about system design, and then every once in a while also doing some algorithm questions, not necessarily just because of like interviews or things like that, not necessarily, can't talk. Not necessarily because of interviews or things like that, but just because I want to continue to stay sharp in terms of understanding different ways of doing algorithms just for work and in general. Secondly, I still want to focus on YouTube, being able to post every week. But for 2025, I would love to be able to do some more higher production videos that doesn't really disturb the weekly video schedule. Again, that might be too ambitious. Third, I want to focus on my courses, see if I can finish my degree. I have 5 courses left, so I'm hoping that that could be possible. Fourth, and these are the things I'm trying to add for next year. I want to try and do personal projects, maybe coding one personal project that I can release. What I'm thinking at the moment is that if I do a super ambitious project that takes the entire year, I'm just going to give up entirely. So I'm going to start with these like mini projects, like maybe do like a cool little game and give myself like max 1 week to do it and just post it out there. After that, I have some miscellaneous goals, like, for example, brainstorm something related to real estate that would be fun to work on. Try to read more books. Start doing stand-up. Okay, the stand-up one sounds a little bit weird because the whole stand-up thing is because I feel like I remember Dave Chappelle saying something like, if you do, like, one huge important part about stand-up is you don't have to be funny, but you do need to be interesting. And I think the whole setup of everything, it just teaches you the skill of holding interesting conversations with people. I'm not explaining this very well, but stand-up is something that I really am interested in. I would love to try and do more of next year. So I added all of this and prompted it to O1. O1 thought for 9 seconds, thinking about all of this, and asked me some clarifying questions such as my work evening schedule, what I do for weekends, my YouTube schedule, degree completion, all of those things. And then I gave it an even longer answer about my work schedule, what my weekends are, how to be flexible, and what my previous year in terms of work I did. And then O1 thought for even longer, and then O1 thought for 23 seconds, and then gave me an estimated plan in terms of big picture between spring, summer, fall, year-round, and then gave me a weekly schedule breakdown. And I thought this is pretty good. Had some pretty quick prompts, and then it gave me a much more organized thought process about what might be too difficult. And then here is when I start using Claude, because I think Claude is really, really nice in terms of coding and being able to figure out cool React elements to model whatever ideas you have. I opened up Claude and essentially gave everything that ChatGPT gave to me as the prompt for Claude. And Claude gave me some visualization ideas. For example, I now have a 2025 schedule visualization, which gives me my typical weekday pattern, which includes work, try to integrate learning as much as possible. Then from 5 to 8:30 p.m., I have rest and dinner, which is an important recharge period. Previously, it was also for basketball, but since I've broken my elbows, I don't know when that's going to happen. And then lastly, from 8:30 to 12, I have a focus blocked alternating between courses as well as YouTube. Saturdays and Sundays, I also have some prime focus time, light work, break and errands, optional evening block. Sunday, same thing, break and prep for the week, weekly planning. And then I also have a Gantt chart style visualization, which gives me my goals scheduled across seasons. Basically, I have these months, and it is kind of a Gantt chart style, and it talks about what I'm doing for my courses, what I'm doing for my YouTube, what I'm doing for my projects. And I'm hoping to do a real estate project, perhaps. That's what I'm saying, like maybe startup MVP, things like that, to think about how I can do like a real estate fix and flip. But we'll have to wait and see if I have, it just sounds super ambitious. And then reading, and then stand up. After I did all of this, I honestly felt pretty satisfied with the result, as well as having, I feel like, a really organized plan of what I want to do going into 2025. But then I thought about it a little bit more, and I ultimately didn't want to continue forward with having some website, having some type of planner that I'm looking at all the time. And I have a couple of reasons for this. The first one is I've watched a lot of productivity YouTubers and just YouTubers in the past, and they talk about like, oh, my morning schedule, I wake up at 5 a.m., I do this, and that. Or like, oh, this is like what I do to like be super organized. This is the system I have to like every single day work as a machine so that I have the most productive day ever. Philosophically, I've had this debate with myself that system is important, but at what point are you taking the joy out of your life where it just becomes way too systematic, where you almost feel like a robot? And people are not robots. Like every single day I feel different. Sometimes I feel like working at nighttime. Sometimes I feel really motivated. Sometimes I don't feel motivated at all. And it would suck to get to the point where my schedule would have to be so rigid that it would be really difficult for me to try and experience new things, or also take a break when I want to. So I know maybe even for a lot of people watching, they want to see like the perfect productivity system, but I also feel like simplicity is super important. It's super important to think in terms of first principles, in terms of what are my energy levels, why am I doing this, what motivates me, what are the essential criteria to accomplish something. But I think beyond that, following a system super rigidly, like having some site where I just follow the Gantt chart and follow step by step weekly, like I'm not running myself as a company, and I don't have shareholders that I'm obliged to. It's all about personal growth. I know there should be goals, but I also feel like they should be goals that are flexible, and even though like they shouldn't have like a unlimited, undefined time period, I think it's totally fine if, for example, there are certain things I'm not able to accomplish. And I know like Elon Musk is not maybe the most popular person, but there is this one snippet that I recently watched on YouTube that I think is actually pretty good. Like he talks about his idea of eliminating things within a process or within a system.
Everyone's wrong, no matter who you are, everyone's wrong some of the time. The most common error of a smart engineer is to optimize a thing that should not exist. Why would people do that? Well, everyone's been trained in high school and college that you got to answer the questions, convergent logic. So you can't tell the professor your question is dumb, that you'll get a bad grade. You have to answer the question. So everyone's basically, without knowing it, they got like mental straitjacket on. They'll work on optimizing the thing that should simply not exist. Just make your requirements less dumb. Your requirements are definitely dumb. It does not matter who gave them to you. It's particularly dangerous if a smart person gave you the requirements, because you might not question them enough. No matter who you are, everyone's wrong some of the time. Then try very hard to delete the part or process. This is actually very important. If you're not occasionally adding things back in, you are not deleting enough. The bias tends to be very strongly towards, let's add this part or process step in case we need it. But you can basically make in-case arguments for so many things. Only the third step is simplify or optimize. The third step, not the first step. Finally, you get to step 4, which is accelerate cycle time. If you're moving too slowly, go faster. But don't go faster until you have worked on the other 3 things first. And then the final step is automate. Now, I have personally made the mistake of going backwards on all 5 steps. Multiple times. I automated, accelerated, simplified, and then deleted.
And his whole premise is basically, he's saying that because especially if you're super smart and you come from an education background, you kind of learn not to question things that are there. Like, for example, if you do an exam, you don't really question, why is that question there? You just do it. And that can lead to a lot of over-engineering. I guess my point is that even though in previous videos I've talked about how important a system is, it is important, but there are some conditionals above that, which is, first, you always need to question the requirements. You shouldn't over-systemize. Like, you shouldn't have like 15, I've seen like students having like 15 highlighters, highlighting different things, and I'm like, okay, maybe that could work for you, but maybe that is just like doing too much. And one litmus test that he does is that when you question the requirements, remove things, even if they feel like they are essential. And it's okay to add them back, but you should try and remove as many things within the system if they feel like they are unnecessary. And I think that's a really good model to go by. And you need to have those, man, I'm talking like a software engineer now, where I'm talking about base cases and things like that. You need to have these base cases of like questioning the requirements, removing unnecessary steps in the process so that you can exit your loop. Oh my God, I sound like a software engineer. So that you can exit your loop before you get into a particular system. So yeah, I don't know if I'm like contradicting myself where I say like system over goals, but at the same time I'm like, you don't necessarily need a system because you're a human. But at the end of the day, I just kind of want to balance the argument. You have to do what works for you. And for me, I feel like this is sufficient to give me an idea of what I want to accomplish in 2025. And I don't need to take the extra step to create a personal productivity planner website to where I track this every day. However, if you are interested in me creating something like that, let me know in the comments below. Let me know in the comments what you would like me to create, what you would like to see. Right now, I'm still working on that notes app from previously, and I would love to hear what type of like coding projects, since I will be doing these like coding project challenges throughout the year. So if you are interested in seeing something, comment that below, and I'll see if I can find time to do it. Okay. Man, I feel like this is one of my messier videos, but aren't all New Year's resolutions a little bit crazy and messy and unorganized? All right. Well, see you guys in 2025 and hope you all accomplish your New Year's resolutions.